Hello, hello. Happy Money May officially. Last week, we kicked off the month discussing three major ways that we all block ourselves from the creating, attracting, and holding more money. And this week, we are taking it deeper and effectively working through each of those blocks and more so that we can finally put them to bed and leave them in the past once and for all where they belong. This is going to be a great episode. Let's get into it. Welcome to All In with Allie, the podcast for online business owners and entrepreneurs who are ready to create the life and business of their dreams. I'm so happy you are here. Okay. So, like I said, this is a continuation of last week's episode. Is it absolutely necessary that you go back and listen to last week's episode just in case you're a little bit behind? No, you can absolutely start here because I'm going to high level remind you what those three blocks are that we covered last week. However, we went very deep into each of these blocks. And it's one of those things where, like, no doubt about it, you are being affected by at least one of these blocks, if not all of them. And if you think, no, I've already worked through my money blocks. No. You worked through your money blocks at the last level that you were ascending to. There's a reason why there's that saying, new level, new devil, because these things are cyclical. And as you continue to grow, you need to work through the new limits so that you can continue to shatter them. So I do recommend at some point going back to last week's episode because it is all designed to build with each other. Okay. But for now, you're here. I love that. Let's keep it moving. So high level, the three ways that we block ourselves, and these are general. And each of these, again, we go very deep in the last episode and there's so many different examples, but just for our purposes here, we're going to do a quick reminder of what these three major blocks are that we all are affected with it in some way, some form at different levels. So the first one is being stuck in what was, being stuck in our old results, our old habits, what we once knew to be true for ourselves, what we once thought was our old limits or our old capabilities or whatever. Essentially old news, being stuck in a loop of old news, right? And that looks a lot like, that's the only thing I've ever done, or I've always screwed up, or I've always been bad with money, or I've always only been able to create this amount of money or wealth. And no matter how hard I've tried, that's just the best that I've done. Being in this loop of what was, when what was isn't what you want to be currently. When your was isn't what you want to be your is. So that's one way. Another way that we block ourselves from creating and attracting and holding more money is affirming what we don't want, often on a deep subconscious level. I don't know why. It's so weird. Okay, so I thought that I'm laughing. Why? Okay, side note. I could see myself on my monitor as I record this, and something that I said when I said want, okay, it didn't happen again, but a little like bubble popped up on my screen. There it goes. Okay, so when I say like, when I do a thumbs up, it pops up. If you're watching the video of this, which you can find these on YouTube, you'll see it. This also happens on Zoom. So I don't know if this is an Apple thing or what. Like. Yeah, there it goes again. Okay, cool. Love that. Not sure how you turn it off, but maybe we don't want to. Anyway, moving on. But again, affirming what it is that we don't want. Now, this sounds like such a no-brainer. It's like, well, I mean, while we do sometimes not paying attention, say shit that we don't want, that like we all do that on some level. Nobody's perfect. Ooh, hold on. We're all going to slip up from time to time. But often these thoughts are happening so deep under the surface that unless you are hyper aware and vigilant about not only what you're thinking and what your thoughts are related to money and business and, whatever means of making or thinking of money that comes through for you, but also how you're feeling. Because if you're feeling a type of way, that means that there's some sort of belief, there's some thoughts there that are in misalignment to what you actually want to create. So this is a very common one, I would say, for every single one of us, for sure, where as we're growing our thresholds for the amount of money that we attract, hold, and create, paying attention to these thoughts as things come up, right? So like thoughts like it's too expensive, or I can't, or that's too much money. Or when we see people who have large amounts of wealth, paying attention to our preconceived notions related to them. Oh, they're very rich. Well, they must not be good people, or they must be greedy, or they must be selfish, or it's probably old money and old wealth, and they probably didn't work hard, and it must be nice to have everything handed to you. Really paying attention to that, because the whole point is if you have this block, if you have these deep beliefs that money is bad, or that, if something is too expensive, you're not saying it in terms of like, I don't value that thing, so I would never spend that money on it. It's something that you would actually want, but you can't fathom actually being able to afford it. Then you're essentially saying, and you're putting out there for everybody to see that like you have this deep belief that you're limited in terms of the money that you're going to make, right? Like if you really want something, but your belief is I'll never have that because it's too expensive, well, then there's your block right there. That's like a very, very clear block. So paying attention to our thoughts and our beliefs around and what we're affirming as it relates to what it is that we want. Are the thoughts and beliefs and the feelings around money in alignment to the creation of more of it, in the creation of, or in the vibe of positive energy related to it? Or is it negative? Is it limiting? Is it scarce? Big difference, which is going to obviously dictate and impact what it is that you create. And then the third way that we block ourselves is by doing more of the same, by not changing our actions as it relates to the creation, the attracting, and the holding of more money. So this is where we get to ask ourselves the very valuable question: if I had, and if I was earning the amount of money that I really wanted, or the next level that I'm going for, what would be my move here? How would I show up here? What would be my energy? How would I feel about this thing? What would be my thoughts, my beliefs? Because what we went really deep into last week is, yes, there are moves that you would make that require large sums of money. So there are going to be those times where you can't really make the move now because the money is not literally there as we speak. But those type of moves, those type of leaps are few and far between, not to mention they're not even the ones that make the biggest impact in your frequency as it relates to money. Oftentimes it's the tiny small shifts that make the biggest impact. So what we talked about last week is you with millions of dollars in the bank versus you now. There are a lot of similarities between you and in these very different realities, right? Like you still take care of yourself. You still have a family. You still have friends. You still like to travel and do your hobbies and all these things. You're still a human going about life. It's just that the number in your bank account looks different. But oftentimes we think to ourselves that if the number in our bank account looked different, then we would feel different about everything else in our lives. We'd be happier. We'd be more at ease. We would feel more free. We would be more lighthearted. We would have more fun. We would have more hobbies. We would travel more. We would spend more time with our partner and our kids and be more present. We say all of this, which might be true. It might not, but all of those things you can do now. All of those things are at the frequency of more for you. So if you can tap into those things now and take those baby steps now, you are quite literally shifting your frequency and energy, making you more of a match for money. So that was high level what we talked about last week. Now, what I want to do today is go deeper into how to really untangle each of these and work through them, because awareness is key. Awareness is huge. I would say awareness is half of the work, because so many people are so unaware of any of these things happening. And yet they wonder, why is this not working for me? Well, it's not working for you because you're so numbed out, or because you don't want to do any of the unsexy work or any of the inner work to be paying attention to your real feelings and beliefs around the thing that you want to create. So you keep doing more of the same, which is creating more of the same, which is one of the blocks. So let's untangle this. And like I said, my goal is we are going to finally nip these in the bud so that we can leave them in the past, so that you can finally move forward. This is the work that actually is going to get you somewhere. And oftentimes, and I want to just set the stage for this now. Let this be easy. Let this be so easy to where you can listen to this episode. You become increasingly aware of what block is really affecting you. And then you do this work. But then you decide, okay, I might have to do this a few times. I may have to catch it a few times, but then it's done. And then decide that it's done. Decide that you are now renewed and are instantly more of a match for what you want. Because I also think that we are our own worst enemies in a lot of ways when it comes to the inner work, because we assume, okay, I've been doing this my whole life. I've had these negative thoughts my whole life. So to decondition myself is going to take a ton of time and a ton of energy and a ton of work, which is why a lot of people avoid it. And while some things might be a little bit more difficult and take a little bit more time to untangle, it doesn't have to be all of it. And furthermore, if you go into something thinking that it's going to be hard and difficult, you're going to make it more hard and difficult in some way, versus if you go into something assuming and affirming to yourself that it's going to be easy and it's going to be fun and it's going to be the best work you ever do, you're going to have a very different experience. So I would love to invite you to just shift your thoughts around this and just decide it's going to be easy and it's going to be fast. And this is going to be the best podcast episode you ever listened to. And you're going to share it with all your friends and family, and we're all going to be happy. Okay. Okay. So let's start with the block being stuck in what was. So the first thing that I want to point out here is we think of this differently depending on the area of focus we're talking about. So some people have a total different mentality when it comes to one area of their life than they do with another area of their life. So for example, maybe when it comes to your relationship, or maybe a hobby that you have, or a job, something that you've been doing for a while, there are challenges for sure, but overall, you're really good at it. So you just know that even if there's a new level to be accomplished, you're going to accomplish it because it's just who you are. Okay. So like, for example, for me, my area is health. I've always had a beautiful relationship with my own health. I deeply, deeply believe that I'm one of the most healthy people on the planet. That is what I affirm. Like, as you hear me speaking, that's what I'm affirming. I speak this into existence every single day. And if that's ever not the case, if I'm ever sick, I'd make it mean nothing. It's simply like, well, that's weird. And I fully expect that I'm going to be back to normal within a matter of days, if not hours. So there's nothing like when it comes to new levels of health, which I'm actively pursuing all the time. I feel really good now, but I always know you can feel better. You can feel even more energized and even more rested and even more optimized with brain function and energy and, and the physical fitness. Like, there's always a new level to achieve physically as well. So I haven't peaked in my health. I know there's more and it will require work, whatever, but I have no limitations in my mind. That's like, for example, let's say, I don't know, let's say I discovered a new sport or something, or yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with that example. Let's say I wanted to all of a sudden get into pickleball. I know it's not directly related to health, but physical health. Okay. So let's say I wanted to get into pickleball. I've never played pickleball a day in my life. I don't know the rules. I don't know. It kind of looks like tennis. I've seen it. I've heard about it. Apparently it's hoot and half and a good time, but I've never done it before. But do I have a belief that just because I haven't done it before, I couldn't pick it up and be really good at it tomorrow? Like I have the level of delusion that I'm like, I feel like I'd be really good at it within the first day of trying. That's my level of belief when it comes to health and physical fitness. However, in a different area of life, I don't have that level of confidence. So like when it comes to money, I see a very big difference here. And I noticed this early on in my career where I'd only made a certain amount, let's say like 10K months. And I was really proud of that. And that felt really big to me. And then I heard people making 20K months. And while I had a level of optimism and belief, to me, it felt like there was no part of me that was like, well, I could probably do that tomorrow. Or I could probably do that like, oh, okay, there's a new level. Well, shoot, I did 10K. So why wouldn't I do 20K? Why wouldn't I do six figures? You know, to me, it's a very different energy around me stepping into a new level of wealth. I used to make it feel so much harder and complicated than I do now. And when I compare these two areas of my life, there's no difference between them. How you think about one thing is how you can think about another thing. So if you're not thinking about them in the same way, you can very easily adopt like the same energy, but we have to untangle this for you, right? So like I had to look into, okay, why don't I feel as confident in my ability to hit new levels of wealth in my business as confident as I do as it relates, again, to physical health or whatever? Like, why is there this very obvious difference? And what I found is because in my mind, I was playing this loop of like, well, I've never done it before. And how I got there the first time, it felt really hard to me. It took me a while. It took a ton of work. So to double that, to go from 10K months to 20K months or 20K months to 50K months, that feels like a really big feat. And right. So like the way that I'm already going into it is that this is going to be hard. It's going to take a lot of time. And I don't even like, there's not even a part of me that's saying like, yeah, of course I can do it. There's part of me that says like, I'm sure I could, because I've always had the belief, like if she can do it, so can I, but I haven't done it yet. So I don't have that confidence of like, oh yeah, I can figure this out. Like when I tell you, if I walked on a pickleball field right now, I'd be like, cool. Tell me the rules, give me a racket, give me a cute skirt, start snapping pictures because I'm gonna blow your mind, you know, and it'd be so silly. And I'd probably be not great the first day, but I have no doubt in my mind I'd pick it up really fast. I did not, and I still don't today, depending on what we're talking about, have that same energy when it comes to money. And this was a huge, huge breakthrough for me. So what I would offer you here, if this is something that you also need to untangle for yourself, is there are many areas in your life. And I would encourage you to go think of different areas of your life where you did something cool for the very first time. And there's the point before you did it where you were the person who hadn't done it yet. And then you did it. And then there was the point that you were the person who did it, right? You went from never done it before to I did it. We have so many different examples of this. Like, and even if you have to go back to when you were a freaking toddler and you had never walked before, or you had never ridden a bike before, or you never read a book, or got married or whatever. Like there's one thing, how you go about one thing is how you can go about every single other thing. So I'm sure when you were a baby, and it's kind of a silly example, but it's legit. When you were a baby, if somebody went up to you as a little tiny infant and said, hey, one day you're going to be walking around like your parents and running around and skipping and being freaking ridiculous on your feet, you'd be like, what? You know, I'm sure if somebody came up to you in your 20s and said, hey, one day you're going to be in a super great relationship with the love of your life, and you're not going to be playing all these silly games that you're playing right now in your 20s, and you're actually going to believe in love, you'd be like, don't lie to me, right? Like there's plenty of examples that you can think of where you were the person who wasn't until you were the person who was. So when it comes to new levels of money in your life, in your business, in your bank account, it's the same exact thing. No, it hasn't happened yet, but there always has to be that first time. And it's going to come so much faster if you believe that it's possible and you go into it with an optimistic, playful energy of like, oh yeah, I'll figure this out. Give me a racket, give me a cute skirt, and I'm gonna make it rain. $100 bills. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Can we go into it with more of that vibe versus like, oh, I've never done it before and I have nothing to offer and it's probably gonna be so hard. I'm already so exhausted, so burnt out. It's like, well, honey, you're not gonna make much of anything that you want with that energy. So that's where we got to clean this up. So I recommend going about it like that. And it just really helps me to be able to compare different areas of life. Because when I can see the contrast and I'm like, okay, now here's where I can clean it up. I can see the gaps that I get to bridge, which is then going to shift the whole perspective, approach, and of course, results. Okay, next, how do we clean up affirming what we don't want, right? When we have these negative thought loops going on about money. Again, first step is awareness of how we're feeling about this thing. Really paying attention. This is going to take you and gamify this. Decide for 2 days. Just start with 2 days that you are going to be hyper focused of every single thought that flows through your head, especially as it relates to money. So as you go to the store, as you shop online, as you see people on the internet who have or who look like they have more money than you, paying attention to your thoughts. And if you can't catch the thought, it's the feeling around it. How you feel about something is going to tell you, okay, there is a belief or a thought that is either in alignment or in misalignment with the outcome that I want. So if you're not feeling good around money, if you're not feeling good around other people who have money, this is a red flag. We need to look at this and we need to pinpoint what that is. Why do you feel icky around it? So again, usually it's like, well, I've never done this before. Okay. We've talked about that. Or I can't fathom being that rich and I really want to be. Okay. Well, what is it about you that you're telling yourself you can't create that? Why is somebody else more capable and worthy than you? Well, they've had a business for X amount of time. They worked for years and years and years, and I'm just getting started, or I don't have that kind of work ethic. Okay, well, do you have to create wealth in the exact same way that that person did? Do you think that person is hustling their face off every second of every day? Like maybe if you're Jeff Bezos, but there are a lot of other ways to create wealth that doesn't look like creating the literal everything store, the biggest store on the planet. You know, that there are other ways to be very comfortably wealthy. And beyond that, that doesn't require you to be Jeff Bezos. So, okay, can we look at other examples? And sometimes it looks like going and finding other examples of people who are building the wealth that you want in ways that feel like what you would want to create. This is one of the reasons why I worked with my coach for so long, because she modeled this beautiful balance of masculine and feminine energy. She doesn't have kids right now, but the way that she runs her business is she has a ton of support with her team. She travels, you know, she lives a life of luxury and of beauty. And she has this insane business that does life game-changing, world-changing impact. And I was like, damn, that level of success is possible with this level of balance. I'm in. Say less. I don't want to do it the Jeff Bezos way. I want to do it this way. So I started looking and putting myself around other women who valued the things that I valued, who had figured out a way to make it work. And by doing that, I started to see, oh, this is possible for me. And it started changing my thoughts around my relationship to it and what was possible for me. So that's one way that we affirm what we don't want. Paying attention to or hyper fixating on when things aren't working. This is a huge way that people affirm what they don't want. So I've said this once, I'll say it a million more times. You can walk into any room, any situation, look at any example of anything, and you can find equal amounts of what's working and what's good and what's not working and what's quote unquote bad. Any situation, anything at all, there's duality. There's the positive, the pros and the cons and everything. But with this specific example of us blocking ourselves by affirming what we don't want, it's typically because we're more practiced and conditioned in hyper fixating and focusing and affirming the things that aren't working in our lives. So this looks like you put out an offer and you were hoping to get multiple sales one day and you only got one. And instead of celebrating the fact that somebody said yes to you and your business and your offer, and there's still more time to go, and you're still going to have so many more offers in the future, this is not the last opportunity you'll have to make money in your life. You hyperfixate on the fact that only one person bought, and you make that mean that it wasn't enough. And the energy around it is like, this isn't working. This looks like you had a really high sales month last month and you have a slower sales month this month. And instead of really understanding the fact that business is going to ebb and flow, and that's part of it, we get to shift things and fix it for next month. We hyperfixate on the fact that there was a dip in revenue and we just can't let it go. We continue to pour energy into that. This looks like making a post and wanting to go viral and getting very few likes and comments. And instead of focusing on the people who did appreciate it and did comment or like it or whatever, focusing and affirming the fact that something isn't working because you didn't go viral, because it didn't go the exact way that you had originally hoped that it would. You get what I'm saying? So what we want to do here is first catch it. And two, we want to really start practicing new thoughts for sure. If that's your issue, if like you have the negative thoughts of, I can't do this, or judging other people, like you want to start practicing thoughts that are in better alignment with what you want to create, which simply takes some repetition and awareness. And then we also want to start celebrating signs of what is working versus what's not. So you hyperfixating on what's not working is, again, you flowing energy and amplifying more of what you don't want. It is one of the most counterproductive things that you can possibly do. And this doesn't mean that we put our head in the sand and when things are broken, pretend that it's not broken. That's not what I'm saying. But there's a difference between saying, oh, okay, this thing needs to be tweaked. This thing needs to be fixed. We need to shift something here versus this is not working. This will never work. I don't have what it takes. This is taking so long. Nobody gets me. Nobody appreciates me. I'm foolish to think that this is possible for me. They are saying that they're getting sales and they're earning money. They're probably all liars because I'm not earning money. So how is anybody else earning money? It's all a facade, right? Like big difference. So I teach something that I have now coined signs of the avalanche. And basically what that means is, and if you start practicing this, what happens is you're training your mind to look for more of what you want. So that means that you'll actually quite quickly start seeing more of what you want. But then we want to amplify it. Okay. So like what you focus on expands. What you focus on, you attract. So we want to amplify and celebrate even the smallest of signs of what it is that we want. So if you want to be a millionaire, if you like what I'm talking about is if you find a freaking dime on the sidewalk, we celebrate it because it's money and it just came in your path. Now, most people would be like, well, that's ridiculous. I'm not celebrating a dime. That is 0.1% of what I'm here to create. And it's just a dime and it's not enough. I can't even buy a coffee with a dime. Why would I celebrate that? Because it's money and it's on your path. Money does not know difference of amounts. That's us. We assign meaning to amounts of money. Money is money. And the more that you are a match for more money, the more of it that you will attract and that will come onto your path. So right now you attracted one type of money, which is a win. A win is a freaking win. So what I want you to be really good at is looking for that freaking win, no matter how big it is. You get one person in your DMs inquiring about an offer, or one person in your DMs commiserating or laughing about something that your kid did that you shared in your stories, or asking your advice on something, or even asking for a link completely unrelated to the things that you're talking about. A win is a win. You get one sale on something when your goal was 50. A win is a win. It's not the level of win that we were necessarily going for, but money is money. And we're going to celebrate it and we're going to amplify it, because if you're not dead yet, your opportunity to make more money ain't over yet. But you're going to make your job a lot more complicated if you continue to affirm what's not working versus what's is, because there's always a choice and a difference between the two, and opportunities for both things present at the same time. So what do you choose to focus on? So, and I call it signs of an avalanche because, like, think of avalanche like a big amount of something, right? A huge amount of snow. So what we're looking for is we're looking for large amounts of wealth. Well, before an avalanche comes, it typically doesn't just all of a sudden, like, we're walking around and the sun's shining and birds are chirping and then boom, like a huge pile of snow falls on your face. That's not how that happens. Typically what happens is everything's normal and all of a sudden, like, a little drop of snow falls, and then another little drop of snow falls, and then a little bit bigger of a pile of snow falls, and then a little bit bigger. And then before you know it, bigger amounts of snow. And then before you know it, holy shit, we're in an avalanche, run. So, like, when it comes to money creation, not to say it has to necessarily go that way, because no doubt, I mean, anything's possible. Call the avalanche. But typically what it will start as, you see the dime on the side of the road. You get the random sale that you weren't planning for while you were sleeping. You get an extra sale on something, on whatever. Somebody is inquiring about your coaching packages, and even if they don't buy, they're still inquiring. These are signs of what it is that you want, which is more money. So we celebrate the signs of more money, no matter how big, no matter how small. Money is money. A win is a win. You got it? You got it? Now, for anything that's like hella complicated that you feel like it keeps coming up for you, I have a journal exercise that works really well for this. And this is also a great journal exercise to do if you wake up in a funk and you really need to shake the funk. And you're like, okay, maybe you're in the middle of a launch, or you need to get in a creative space and you're like, okay, I literally cannot afford to be in a funk right now. Do this journal exercise. It'll take probably somewhere between 20 to 40-ish minutes, but it's worth it. You literally can afford not to do it if you're in a bad space. But with this journal exercise, what you're going to do, well, what I like to do, okay, this is my way, just like cherry pick and make it your own. I first like to pray ahead, because I don't like speaking things out loud that I don't want to happen. And I certainly don't like writing things that I don't want to happen. So anytime I journal, 99% of the time, it's all future focused and and scripting what I want to happen. That's my favorite way to journal. I'm very, very, like, I really resist writing things on paper that I don't want to happen or that I don't like happening. However, the exception to my rule is this exercise. And what makes it feel good for me is I pray first. And I literally will pray. I'll say, God, homie, listen, I'm about to write some shit on this paper. I'm not saying that I want this. I'm getting it out of my body. And I pray that as these emotions and words and energies flow from my heart and my soul onto the paper, that you will allow it to stay on the paper and leave my body for good. And God, I pray that as I write these things, you help me to see them more clearly for what they are, which is false, and help me to see a better, more true truth, and not only to see it, but to adopt it and replace the negative belief with this new, more positive one that's in alignment of what I'm here to create, be, do, and have. Okay. And then I brain dump. I just let it out, right? Like everything that I'm feeling, I'm hyper honest about it. Like, this is how I'm feeling. This is, the thoughts that are flowing through my mind. I don't think this is going to work. I'm feeling insecure about this, whatever the thing is, I put it out in bullet points. And then I go through one by one and I argue why it's ultimately not true and what the more accurate truth is. So for example, let's say I put something on paper, and I literally just did this the other day, but I put on there, like, what was it? I'm concerned that this thing isn't going to work out and that it's really going to create an issue, like whatever the thing was. And my argument against it was like, everything always works out. And that genuinely is my experience. Like everything in my life, for the most part, even when it wasn't working out, in hindsight, it worked out. And I can see why it happened for me. And then the better belief is like, of course it's working out. It's working out every single day. I'm going to see results for it. It's like, and I started speaking and flowing energy into the signs of the avalanche and proof that it is working out versus that it's not working out, because both are present. I was just choosing, my fear was choosing to be louder than my faith in that moment. So do that exercise. For me, when I do this, it feels like a 50-pound blanket is lifted from my shoulders. I just automatically feel lighter. I feel happier. And then I genuinely feel like I've purged this dark muck from my body and my energy, and it's out, and I can now create new. So enjoy that. And then finally, the not changing your actions block, and how we go about working through that. So we really went deep into this last week, and we talked a lot about how to shift this. So I don't think we need to spend too much time here, but I will say it again. I gave really good examples of this in the last episode where, so like basically what we want to do is we want to imagine, whether you want to journal it or visualize it or meditate on it or whatever, like however you want to go about thinking about your future self. But we want to think about your future self and project yourself into the situation that you're wanting to create. So if you're wanting to create more money, you want to have a visualization and go to the future you that has that amount of money in the bank. And then you want to place scenarios in your head, like how you go about your day-to-day life, the things that you do with that amount of money in the bank. And really pay attention to the little things, right? How you're just going around day to day, how you're interacting with people, how you're managing your team. Do you have a team? You probably do have a team at that level, So like you're going to start to see these gaps, some of which you won't be ready to fill yet, but some of them you absolutely can, because what we went into last week is every feeling that you think you're going to feel when you have the money, you can feel now. So the reason why we all want more money is because we want to feel more free. We want to feel more abundant and expansive and safe and happy and joyful. And those are the biggies. Every single one of those feelings, if you were to really close your eyes and allow yourself and go through each one, what does it feel like to be free? There's been a time that you have felt free and you know what that feels like. What does it feel like to feel joy? What does it feel like to feel expansive? What does luxury feel like? What does playful feel like? What does safe feel like? You can access every single one of these things now. So what we want to do to shift our actions is, number one, we want to feel these feelings as often as possible. Start practicing them. Because in the same way that some of us are more practiced at feeling stressed and scarcity and looking for opportunities to feel stressed and scarcity, we can do the exact same things with happiness and freedom, happiness and expansion. It takes some practice and some reconditioning and reprogramming of yourself. So you want to do that, but then also you do want to pay attention to what would you do differently if you had the money? How would you, like an example that I used, and it was so almost trivial, but to me, it's these tiny examples that really do make such a difference because it changes how you feel about the thing as a whole. But my example last week was I'm manifesting a Porsche. And I had this visualization before I went to bed where I was like imagining my Porsche being here and driving the Porsche around just to do like my normal day-to-day activities, taking it to the gym, dropping off some things at the post office, going to the store, bringing crews to some practice. And I one thing that I noticed in this visualization is I noticed that the Porsche was super organized, like the middle console. It had this little zipper bag with like everything that I needed, little Band-Aids and mints and hand sanitizer and tampons and hair ties and anything that I could need day to day. I had it like all perfectly organized, and my Porsche was pristine and it was clean and it felt good and it smelled good. And I loved driving it because yes, it was a Porsche, but also like I took really good care of it. And what I noticed the gap is while I don't have the Porsche in my driveway as we speak, I do have a working vehicle, one that's paid for, one that's very good to me, one that gets me very well from point A to point B, but I do not care for it in the same way that I think I would a Porsche, right? I don't clean it, rarely ever. It certainly wasn't organized. I let, the kids' snacks get all funky and like old juice and, I just, because it's not new, I let it get funky. And then when I get in there to drive it, I don't feel expansive because why would I? Because I treat it like crap. So I was like, whoa, this is such an easy gap that I can fill literally right now and instantly feel a different level of expansion by doing that. So the very next day, I took it, I got it detailed. I got on Amazon. I bought this little zipper pouch. I went and got a lot of like little samples and things from Amazon and from Sephora with like all the little things that I would need. And I cleaned it up really good. It smelled nicer. And then sure enough, every single time I got in the car, it was a totally different experience. And I could feel and I could connect to the feelings of driving a Porsche because my car was closer to it in a way, right? Because I was taking care of it in the same way. So now I'm shifting my whole frequency and energy around this thing that I want that's in more alignment with the thing that I want versus what I was doing, which was in misalignment. So you can do this in any area of your life. And the more that you do this and you pay attention to the small gaps that you can fill immediately, you are literally shifting your frequency around the things, but now you're shifting who you are and your behavior, which is making you a new person, which is making you a match for something new. And if it's in alignment with more of what you want, then that's exactly what you're going to attract. Comprendo? Yeah. Can you tell I could talk about this all day? This makes me so happy. This is it. This is the secret to life. Like when I tell you this is the secret to life, and all of these things are so simple, but we overcomplicate it because we were used to, and well, I'm going to speak for myself. I'm used to things being hard, and I cannot fathom that creating something what I perceive as big, which isn't even big. Like I'm the one who assigns the bigness to it. It's just energy, right? That's why you'll hear like Abraham Hicks says, it's as easy to manifest a button as it is a castle. It's just that we are the ones with our own minds that apply the limitations, that apply the bigness to it, that make the castle feel bigger, feel more difficult, feel hard, which is exactly what we create, which is why we don't create the castle, but we create the button because we go into the button thinking, oh yeah, of course I can find a button. Who couldn't? So what if you went through your life like, oh yeah, of course I can create this level of money. She has. Who cares? I haven't done it before. There's a lot of things I've never done before, but then I end up doing it. I'm really damn good at it now. I used to not be able to drive a car. I'm an excellent driver now. Excellent driver. Name that movie. Okay. So anyway, that's enough for today. I love this. This is a really, really good jumping off point. What are we going to do next week? Let's see. Let me give you a little teaseroo so you know what to look forward to. So we've talked about money blocks. We've now worked through the blocks. Let's see. What are we going to do for next week? I think we're going to talk about portals of money next week. We're going to talk about like the literal creation of money. I think so. Don't hold me to that, but we'll see. I'm about to record it right now, so I'm about to literally decide. So anyway, I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, please share it. Follow us on iTunes if you don't yet, so you don't miss future episodes. I would love if you tagged me and shared in your stories. And do not forget, if you love this energy and you want to immerse yourself in more of this, I have something happening right now. It's called Money May Members Only Experience. It begins May 6th and it ends May 31st. And it's 20 days of live coaching, prompts, activations, and riffs, all to support you in getting into the energy of more money, creating more money, and attracting and holding more money. It's $99. You can cancel anytime. And when you join this group, you also get instant access to other classes that I've done, such as Destined, Attract, Momentum, Pulling Money from the Sky, Reinvention, How to Create Killer Content that Sells, Alchemize, and Abundance Codes. You get instant access to that plus Money May, all for $99. It really doesn't make sense. You're welcome. It's incredible. And by the way, if you're listening to this after May 6th, you can still join Money May because you'll get instant access to the previous days and you can just go at your own pace. So you don't need to worry about being behind. It's all good. Just trust when you're getting the information and when you want to come in, and we'll handle the rest. I love you. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.